The Harrington family's annual reunion was just as oppressive as I remembered. Crystal chandeliers gleamed overhead in my Aunt Eleanor's oversized mansion, their light bouncing off designer dresses and exorbitant watches. The air was heavy with a strange mix of pricey perfume and the haughty air that clung to my relatives wherever they went. I stood in the corner, watching my cousins jostle for attention with tales of their latest victories. My simple black dress, deliberately chosen to let me fade into the shadows, felt like armor against their judgment. "Clara," my Aunt Eleanor's voice sliced through the buzz, "I almost didn't notice you there. Still working as a secretary, dear?" I took a small sip of champagne, hiding my smile behind the glass. "Administrative assistant, actually," I corrected quietly. "Oh," she said, raising a perfectly manicured eyebrow, "still at that little consulting firm. What's it called again?" "Horizon Consulting," I replied softly. My cousin Nathan, fresh off making partner at his father's law firm, couldn't resist jumping in. "Come on, Clara, I could get you a real job, something with actual career potential." I thought about the stack of contracts awaiting my signature back at my real office, not the carefully curated cover I showed them, and said, "I'm happy where I am, thanks." "Happy?" Aunt Eleanor's laugh could have shattered glass. "Darling, you're wasting your potential. Your cousins are executives, partners, real business people. And you're still pushing paper for someone else. If only they knew that someone else was me." The story of how I secretly built my empire began 10 years ago in this very house. Fresh out of business school with an MBA and a groundbreaking idea for restructuring failing companies, I'd spent months perfecting my pitch, certain my family's vast business connections would propel my career. Instead, they laughed. "Consulting?" Uncle Henry had sneered. "Leave that to the big firms, girl. Join the family business, start in the mailroom, work your way up like everyone else." Everyone else meant my male cousins, naturally. The Harrington family's definition of success was rigid and tightly controlled, their fortune built through a network of companies, each led by a carefully chosen male heir. Women were expected to marry well or take subservient roles, nothing more. That night, I made two life-altering decisions. First, I'd build my own company without their help or knowledge. Second, I'd make them rue every dismissive word. Horizon Consulting started in a cramped office above a Chinese restaurant. My savings barely covered the rent, but I had something more valuable than money, an understanding of how companies functioned, why they faltered, and, most crucially, how to fix them. My first client was a small manufacturing firm teetering on bankruptcy, rejected by every major consulting outfit in the city. I spent 3 months revamping their operations, streamlining processes, and negotiating with creditors. 6 months later, they were profitable again. Word spread quietly through business circles about the mysterious consulting firm that could resurrect dying companies. I hired meticulously, selecting people who shared my vision and discretion, each signing ironclad NDAs. My name never appeared on public documents. I was simply the CEO. As Horizon Consulting expanded, I maintained my guise as a low-level employee. I kept that tiny office above the restaurant even as we moved into a sleek downtown headquarters. When family asked about my job, I described tedious administrative tasks, watching their eyes glaze over with boredom. The deception wasn't just about pride, it was strategic. The Harrington empire thrived on acquiring struggling companies at rock-bottom prices. My firm specialized in saving those same companies before they became takeover targets. We operated in the shadows, quietly thwarting their predatory practices while forging our own success. Now, a decade later, Horizon Consulting was a titan in the industry, boasting offices in 12 cities, a Fortune 500 client list, and a reputation for turning failures into triumphs. Not one of my smirking relatives had a clue. "More champagne, dear?" Aunt Eleanor's voice snapped me back to the present. "Though perhaps you should stick to water. I imagine your salary doesn't leave much room for expensive tastes." I accepted the glass with a practiced smile. "Thank you, Aunt Eleanor. How's Uncle Henry's new acquisition going? Brighton Manufacturing, wasn't it?" Her smile wavered. "There've been some complications. Nothing Henry can't handle, of course." What she didn't know was that those complications were my doing. Brighton Manufacturing had been my uncle's latest hostile takeover target. They'd reached out to Horizon Consulting 3 months ago, desperate for help. Now, they were implementing our restructuring plan, their stock price soaring as Henry's bid fell apart. I heard they hired some consulting firm, Nathan added, shrugging dismissively. Probably throwing good money after bad. Those consultants promise big and deliver nothing. I hid another smile. Horizon Consulting's fee for saving Brighton Manufacturing exceeded Nathan's earnings over 5 years. Which firm? He pressed. Horizon something, nobody important. Dad says their CEO won't even show their face, probably some trust fund kid playing at business. My phone buzzed in my clutch, a message from my actual assistant. Emergency meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Harrington Enterprises reps requesting merger discussion Brighton Manufacturing. Urgent response needed. I read it twice, realization dawning. They'd failed to acquire Brighton and now sought a merger, needing approval from my firm. Tomorrow, they'd walk into a meeting expecting to strong-arm their way through, only to face the secretary they dismissed for a decade. Except I wouldn't be bringing coffee, I'd be at the head of the table. Everything all right, dear? Aunt Eleanor asked, noticing my expression. I finished my champagne and flashed my brightest smile. Perfect, actually. I should head home. Early meeting tomorrow. Oh, taking notes for someone important? Something like that, I replied, already planning my outfit. The next morning, I rode my private elevator to Horizon Consulting's executive floor. Gone was the simple black dress. Today, I wore a tailored navy suit, a power color for a power play. My assistant, Lila, met me at the doors with a tablet and a knowing smile. The Harrington Enterprises team arrived early, she reported as we walked. Your uncle's especially eager to meet Horizon's CEO. I'm sure he is, I said, checking my reflection in a glass wall flawless. They're in the main conference room? Yes, with Mr. Carter from Brighton Manufacturing. Your cousin Nathan's there too. He insisted on handling the legal side himself. I smiled, recalling his condescending job offer from yesterday. Who else from the family? Your Aunt Eleanor came for moral support, though she's not officially in the meeting, and your cousin Miles, representing Harrington Enterprises' finance department. A perfect audience. I checked my watch, 8:57 a.m. Have they been served coffee? Your aunt complained there was no one to bring it, Lila grinned. I told them the administrative assistant would be in shortly. I nearly laughed. For 10 years, I'd played the invisible support staff whenever family visited the office. They never scrutinized the quiet woman serving coffee or taking coats. It had been the ideal cover. Give me 2 minutes, then bring the contracts. I could hear them through the conference room's heavy doors, Uncle Henry's commanding tone, Aunt Eleanor's sharp laugh, Nathan's smug remarks. I took a deep breath and pushed the doors open. The chatter stopped cold. Uncle Henry sat at one end of the long table, claiming the power position. Nathan and Miles flanked him, both in pricey suits that screamed family wealth. Aunt Eleanor perched nearby, examining her manicure with feigned disinterest. Mr. Carter sat alone on the other side, looking uneasy. Finally, Aunt Eleanor sighed. We've been waiting for coffee. She froze, really seeing me. Clara, what are you wearing? And why aren't you carrying coffee? I walked calmly to the head of the table, opposite Uncle Henry. I don't serve coffee anymore, Aunt Eleanor. In fact, I never really did. What is this? Uncle Henry demanded. Where's Horizon's CEO? We were promised the decision-maker. You've got her, I said, sitting down, savoring their confusion. I'm the CEO of Horizon Consulting. I have been since I founded it 10 years ago. The silence was deafening. Nathan's mouth flapped like a fish out of water. Miles dropped his pen. Aunt Eleanor's composure shattered. Uncle Henry recovered first, face reddening. This is absurd. You're a secretary. No, I said calmly, that was a cover. A damn good one, apparently, since none of you looked past it. You were so sure I couldn't succeed that you never noticed I already had. Lila entered with a stack of contracts, distributing them efficiently before standing behind me. These documents outline the terms under which Horizon Consulting will consider approving the merger between Harrington Enterprises and Brighton Manufacturing, I continued. Consider approving? Nathan sputtered. You can't be serious. This is a joke, right? Some elaborate prank. I pulled out my phone and projected Horizon's latest financials onto the screen. $12 billion in client assets, 94% success rate in restructuring. Our approval is required for any major changes to Brighton Manufacturing's structure. Does that look like a joke to you? This is impossible, Aunt Eleanor whispered. You're nothing. You've always been nothing. That's exactly what you were meant to think, I said, turning to Mr. Carter. Would you explain why Brighton chose Horizon over Harrington Enterprises' original offer? He straightened. Horizon's reputation is unmatched. When Harrington tried their hostile takeover, Horizon's restructuring plan saved us. Profits are up 47% since we started. Miles looked faint. That plan, the one that sank our acquisition, that was you? Among others, I said, counting off on my fingers. Peterson Electronics, which you targeted last year, Maritime Shipping, which you underbid last quarter, Davidson Group, which recovered just before you could swoop in. For 10 years, I've been quietly undermining every predatory move your company's made. Uncle Henry's face turned purple. You deliberately sabotaged the family business. No, I corrected, I built my own, one that helps companies survive instead of devouring them. That it messed with your plans was just a karmic bonus. This is ridiculous, Nathan declared, standing. I'm calling our lawyers, sit down. Nathan, I said, my voice carrying an authority that stopped him cold. Read those contracts. Your firm's biggest client this year? That was me too. Lila stepped forward with another document. This summarizes Horizon's market position and liquid assets. We're now poised to acquire controlling interest in Harrington Enterprises if we choose. The room erupted. Aunt Eleanor was nearly hyperventilating. Miles frantically checked numbers on his phone. Nathan collapsed back into his chair, shell-shocked. This is blackmail. Uncle Henry growled. No, I said quietly, this is business, the kind you taught me I'd never handle. I stood, smoothing my jacket. You've got until 5 p.m. to review the merger terms. They're generous, considering our position. Decline, and Horizon Consulting starts buying Harrington Enterprises stock tomorrow morning. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Aunt Eleanor, that champagne you offered last night? I own the vineyard. Bought it last year. The coffee you wanted this morning? My chain. Turns out my salary leaves plenty of room for expensive tastes. The door shut on their stunned faces. In my private office, I let the moment sink in. 10 years of careful deception, of playing the invisible underachiever, had led here. Lila brought a cup of coffee, my favorite blend from my own chain. Was it worth the wait? She asked. I thought of all the times I'd served coffee in this office, watching my family dismiss me, underestimate me, write me off as nothing. Every single second, I said. My phone buzzed with messages from relatives who'd heard about the meeting. I silenced it. They could process their new reality later. For now, I had an empire to run, and for the first time in a decade, I could do it without hiding who I was. The next 48 hours were what you'd expect when a family built on power and appearances realizes they're no longer apex predators. Messages flooded in post-meeting. Aunt Eleanor, darling, let's discuss this over lunch. You were always my favorite niece. Nathan, come on, Clara. We were just joking, family sticks together. Miles, you can't do this to us, we're blood. I ignored them, focusing on rapid-fire emails from Harrington Enterprises board. They weren't fools, they saw the tide turning. By noon, they'd called an emergency meeting. By 3 p.m., they'd voted to accept Horizon's merger terms. Uncle Henry didn't go quietly. You've betrayed this family, his voice boomed as he barged into my office. Lila moved to intervene, but I waved her off, let him have his moment. Actually, I said, not looking up from my computer, I'd say I learned from this family. Isn't this what you taught us? Seize power, eliminate competition, never show weakness? We gave you everything. That made me laugh. You gave me less than nothing. You taught me I'd never be good enough, that my only worth was supporting the men in this family. So I built something better by deceiving everyone for a decade. I met his gaze. By letting you deceive yourselves. You saw what you expected, a quiet, unambitious woman who knew her place. That was your mistake, not mine. The fight drained from him. He sank into a chair, looking older than ever. Why reveal yourself now? You could have kept operating in secret. Because it was time, I said, closing my laptop. Brighton Manufacturing isn't the only company you're after. There's Thompson Electronics, Maritime Solutions, at least 3 others, good companies with solid people, just needing restructuring. I'm tired of watching you destroy them. It's business, he protested weakly. No, it's greed. And it stops now. I handed him a folder. These are the final merger terms. Horizon Consulting will take controlling interest in Harrington Enterprises. We'll refocus it on building businesses up, not tearing them down. Stay on as a consultant if you accept the new direction. If not, your golden parachute's on page 3. He opened it with trembling hands. You thought of everything. I learned from the best, I said, smile cold, though not how you intended. After he left, Lila brought newspapers. Horizon's reveal was headline news. Secret CEO unveiled. How one woman built $1 billion empire in shadows. Harrington family stunned. The success they never saw. My phone buzzed again this time, a message that mattered. My mother, who divorced Uncle Henry's brother years ago and escaped the Harrington toxicity, wrote, I always knew you'd show them. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Harrington Enterprises board embraced Horizon's vision. Their stock jumped 40% on the merger news. Companies once wary of the Harrington name now sought partnerships. The press ate it up. Aunt Eleanor tried spinning it as a family triumph. We always knew Clara had potential, she told a reporter, proof the Harrington entrepreneurial spirit runs deep. I countered with video from last year's reunion, her 20-minute rant on why I'd never amount to anything. It went viral. She stopped giving interviews. Nathan claimed he'd been in on it, but too many saw his shocked face in that meeting. His law firm's clients questioned his judgment, and within a month, he was on leave. Miles adapted fastest, pitching a Harrington Horizon alliance over an awkward lunch 2 weeks later. We could dominate the market, he said. That's not what Horizon is about, I replied. We don't dominate, we elevate. The real impact came quietly, and in turn thanking me for proving success didn't mean compromising principles. Female executives sharing their own tales of being underestimated, business schools inviting me to speak on ethical success. 3 months later, I accepted a Business Innovation Award, my mother beaming in the front row, former assistants, women who'd helped maintain my cover, now thriving at Horizon, behind her. Success isn't about who has the most power, I told the crowd, but how you use it. For 10 years, I played a role that let the powerful underestimate me. I could have revealed myself sooner, but I waited until Horizon could drive real change. The applause roared, but true satisfaction came that evening. Working late, Lila brought news. Uncle Henry had retired, his resignation letter stating, my niece taught me true success isn't acquisitions or assets, but positive impact. I regret it took losing my company to see this. I leaned back, reflecting on the decade-long game, swallowing pride, playing small, all leading here. Horizon Consulting wasn't just successful, it was reshaping business. The next reunion? I'd host it in Horizon's main conference room, where I'd served coffee countless times, waiting for this moment. Lila knocked. Your 4 p.m. is here, the CEO of Thompson Electronics, the company your uncle targeted. Show them in, I said, and bring coffee for everyone, the good stuff from our chain. Standing to greet them, I caught my reflection. No more hiding, no more smallness. I'd built something extraordinary, not despite my family's dismissal, but because of it. They'd taught me power doesn't always look obvious. Sometimes it's a quiet woman in a black dress, serving coffee, taking notes, building an empire under their noses. The tabloids called it revenge, business papers dubbed it strategic genius, but for me, it was justice, one takeover at a time, with a side of perfect coffee. Somewhere above a Chinese restaurant, my original desk remains, a reminder that success doesn't always flaunt designer labels or demand notice. Sometimes it works silently, patiently crafting something remarkable while the world looks away. That's the real secret, not the power you display, but the power you build when no one's watching.